Hey Gallup, it's Jason Valentine with Coldwell Banker High Desert Realty. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Going Deep with Gallup. Today we're going to talk about the one report that does not discriminate as you're going through the transaction. It doesn't matter if you're a buyer or if you're a seller. If this one report doesn't turn out real well for you, probably nothing's going to happen on this transaction. And that report is the appraisal. So just for general knowledge, I pulled out my big book of knowledge, and the definition of an appraisal is the process of developing and communicating an opinion about a property's value. An appraisal is usually required when real property is sold. Note that the appraisal is an estimate, not a determination of value, and an appraisal may be in the form of a lengthy written report or on a pre-printed form, a simple letter, or even an oral report. So this is what I wanted just to kind of break down for you, and I'll try to keep it pretty simple for today. The appraiser does not work for the buyer. The appraiser does not work for the seller. Believe it or not, the appraiser works for the bank. Because the bank, when they put their money out, let's say they're buying a $200,000 house or a $200,000 loan, they want to be sure what the buyer is buying is worth at least $200,000 in the market. And so that's why the appraisal works for the bank. It works for the lender, not for the buyer or for the seller. So I want to share with you that there's three general types of appraisals that can be done. If you have a multi-unit property, maybe you have 5+ units like an apartment complex or something, appraisers can use an income approach to help you determine a value of that property. Appraisers can use a cost approach, and guys, what this is like is if you look at your home insurance information and they have a replacement cost. That replacement cost is every piece of lumber, every nail, every shingle that's on that house, what it's going to take to rebuild that thing. And so you have a cost appraisal that goes along with that. But for today, because most of us are going to be buying or selling, resale homes, let's talk about a comparable method of an appraisal, which basically is what the market is going to justify as a sales price. So let me share with you. Let's say the comparable method is going to use not what your house is worth, but what other homes that have been like yours have sold for in the past. And typically, appraisers are looking for sales within the last 6 to 12 months. They want to try to get as many conditions or as many criteria together as possible, such as square footage, age, amenities, location. And so if, for example, this first house that we looked at, maybe it sold 12 months ago, and it was a 2,000 square foot house. It's 20 years old, and let's just say that it's in Indian Hills. And if it sold for, let's say 2,000 square foot, let's say it sold for $200,000. The appraiser is going to take that and he's going to use that as what's called a comparable. So this next house that we're looking at, maybe it sold 6 months ago, and it was a 1,800 square foot house. Maybe it's 25 years old, right? And still down in the Indian Hills area. And maybe this one sold at $185,000. Then this last house that we're going to look at, maybe it just sold 3 months ago, and it's a 2,100 square foot house. Maybe it's 15 years old, and of course it's still in Indian Hills, and maybe this one sold for $215,000. What I can tell you guys, without doing an appraiser's job or whatever, likely the house that you're buying or the house that you're selling is going to come up with an appraisal between $185,000 and $215,000, with the kind of middle ground being about $200,000. Now the appraiser does make some what he calls adjustments for amenities, such as, you see, this house is 2,000 square foot, this one is 1,800 square foot, and that one's 2,100 square foot. So he might do $30 per foot based on what these sold at. if one of these has a garage and the other doesn't, he might give a value of $5,000 per car. So if it's a two-car garage, it would be $10,000. If it was a one-car garage, it'd only be $5,000. But he might give an adjustment for that. But the reason that I like to share with you guys a little bit about how appraisals work is because the appraiser is using sold comparables from the multiple listing service, which is helping him determine what's going on in the market. Let's say, for example, this is the appraisal that's competing, but maybe the house you're buying is a 2,000 square foot house that's 20 years old in the Indian Hills area, and maybe you're trying to sell it for $235 or maybe $5. Based on what is currently sold in and around the market, guys, you're going to end up with a short appraisal. So there's only three things that happens if an appraisal comes in short. Number one, the seller can come down to the appraised price, which in this case on the high end might be around $215. Or the buyer can make up the difference, where maybe the buyer would have to come up with $20,000. Or the buyer and seller can renegotiate the sales price and meet somewhere in the middle. But the end statement is, guys, this is just a little snapshot video of how an appraisal happens. Because the thing is, appraisals don't discriminate, and the appraiser doesn't work for the buyer or for the seller. They work for the lender. So the best way that if you're selling a house, you can make sure that you're pricing a home correctly is have your real estate agent go into the MLS and look at similar types of properties that have sold. So that way you're not overpricing it, and then you just have to come down when the appraisal comes in. And if you're a buyer, have your real estate agent, again, pull comparables that have been sold that are similar. And that way when you're making your offers, you're making them in line with where the appraisal might come in at. That way you don't lose your transaction after appraisal comes in short and the seller doesn't want to sell at that price. So guys, this is Jason with Coldwell Banker High Desert Realty. This is a pretty technical video today, because a lot of us know about appraisals, but we don't really know how the appraiser makes his determinations. I hope this little video helped you out a little bit. I'm hoping you'll share a few comments down below. And guys, of course, if you are looking for a great real estate agent who can help you navigate things like buying a house or selling a house and making sure you don't have a short appraisal, you can always give us a call at 505-863-4363. Anyway, talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.